Humans will run away from a roaring lion, but thousands of years ago, early hunters would completely abandon their caves if they found a single pile of fresh dung from a giant ground sloth. It sounds completely backward that a slow, plant-eating giant would strike more terror into our ancestors than a swift, flesh-eating predator with sharp teeth.
But when you look at how early humans survived, the reason for this bizarre fear becomes instantly clear. Apex predators like lions were actually predictable. A hungry lion makes noise, hunts in open territory, and usually targets the weakest animal in a herd. If you knew where the pride was resting, you could simply walk in the opposite direction.
But giant ground sloths were an unpredictable force of nature that broke every rule of survival. Imagine standing next to a creature the size of a modern elephant, standing on its hind legs with heavy bone armor embedded right under its skin like a natural bulletproof vest. One swing of its 6-inch curved claws could crush a human skull instantly without the animal even trying to hunt you.
That made them walking brick walls that could not be frightened away by fire or spears. This brings us to a strange paradox that scientists discovered in fossil footprints across North America. When early humans bumped into lions, they often tracked them at a distance or tried to scare them away from fresh kills to steal the meat.
But when human tracks cross the paths of giant sloths, the footprints show something chillingly different. Humans were not hunting these giants for food in the beginning. They were actively treading in their exact steps just to avoid making a sound. Why would a top predator species like early humans act like timid mice around a vegetarian?
The answer lies in the way giant sloths interacted with the landscape. Unlike lions, which mostly ignored things that were not immediate food, giant sloths were fiercely territorial and possessed a sense of smell so sharp they could detect an intruder miles away. Think of a modern bear, but multiply its weight by 10 and give it skin so thick that sharp stone blades barely scratched it. If a human wandered into a cave system that a sloth considered its home, the animal would not stalk them. It would simply flatten everything in the space to clear its territory. And that leads directly to the first major twist about how early humans actually viewed the dangerous world around them.
We used to think early humans were fearless hunters who saw big animals merely as giant dinners waiting to be killed. But modern archaeological finds show that ancient tribes treated giant sloths less like animals and more like unpredictable natural disasters, similar to a localized earthquake or a sudden flash flood. You do not try to fight a flash flood. You run as far away as possible.
Consider what happened when an ancient hunting party accidentally cornered one of these creatures in a canyon. A lion, when cornered, will growl, display its teeth, and prepare to leap, giving smart hunters a brief window to throw spears or back out slowly. A giant sloth did not give warning signals because it had no natural enemies to warn.
It would simply sweep its massive arms through the air, knocking over entire trees and crushing anything in its path. Yet, despite this sheer panic, ancient human skeletons have been found with tools made directly from giant sloth bones. How could a group of tiny humans with primitive sticks and sharp stones manage to harvest bone from a creature they were terrified to even look at? They did not kill them in fair combat. Instead, humans became the ultimate scavengers of opportunity, waiting until a sloth died of old age or got stuck in deep mud before approaching the body with extreme caution. They were so terrified of the animal reviving that footprints show humans approach dead sloths from behind, poking them with long sticks for hours before stepping close enough to touch them. This intense caution reveals a strange flaw in human brain evolution during the Ice Age. Our ancestors developed an extreme fear of slow, heavy, plant-eating giants, while remaining surprisingly bold around fast, deadly meat-eaters. Picture walking through a dark forest at night. You hear a fast rustle in the bushes, and your brain instantly thinks of a leopard or a wolf, so you freeze and prepare to defend yourself.
But if you hear a slow, heavy crunching of massive branches that vibrates the ground beneath your feet, your brain cannot calculate a quick escape route. That slow, heavy vibration triggered a deeper, more primal type of panic in early humans than the fast shadow of a hunting cat.
Science recently uncovered something even more mind-bending about these encounters. From preserved mud tracks in White Sands, New Mexico, researchers found human footprints inside the giant circular tracks of a sloth, but the human prints were arranged in a weird, precise circle around the heel of the animal. At first glance, it looks like a group of ancient children playing a dangerous game of follow the leader behind a gigantic monster. But when you analyze the depth of the prints, a terrifying reality emerges. The humans were using the giant sloth as a living shield. By walking directly in the deep indentations left by the sloth, early humans could cross open, dangerous territory filled with saber-toothed cats and dire wolves without being spotted. Predators in the area avoided the giant sloth at all costs, so standing in the giant shadow of the most feared animal on the continent was actually the safest place for a defenseless human to be.
This creates a total reversal of what we thought we knew about Ice Age survival. The very creature that terrified humans the most was also the exact creature they used for protection against the meat eaters that wanted to eat them. Think about how bizarre that survival strategy really was.
Imagine walking inches away from a moving mountain that could crush you if it stepped backward, just because every other predator in the valley was too scared to come near it. It was like standing right next to a ticking bomb, because you know nobody else will dare step into the room.
If giant sloths were so terrifying and so impossible to defeat, how did they eventually disappear from the planet right around the time human populations began to grow? The instinct would be to assume humans finally invented better weapons and hunted them to extinction.
But the real reason they vanished is far stranger, and it shows how human fear can turn into the ultimate survival weapon over thousands of years. Humans did not defeat the giant sloth by attacking it head-on with spears or traps. Instead, they used a method called persistent harassment, taking advantage of the sloth's one fatal weakness, which was its incredibly slow metabolic recovery time.
A lion can rest for a few hours and be fully ready to explode into a high-speed sprint again. A giant sloth, because of its specialized plant-based diet, took days to recover its energy after a high-stress encounter. Humans realized that they did not need to pierce the sloth's thick skin or crush its bone armor to win a fight. They just had to make noise.
Groups of humans would take turns following a sloth from a safe distance, banging rocks together, throwing small stones, and shouting continuously for days on end. The sloth, unable to run away quickly and unable to rest, would slowly burn through its energy reserves just by standing up and trying to defend itself against invisible threats.
Eventually, the massive creature would simply collapse from sheer exhaustion without a single human ever coming within reach of its lethal claws. The giant that once struck total terror into human hearts was brought down not by strength, but by annoying it to death. This completely changes the narrative of human evolution from strong warriors to relentless annoyances in the natural world.
It proves that our ancestors did not dominate the planet because they were the bravest or strongest hunters, but because they were smart enough to turn their own deep fears into calculated strategies. When you look at modern animals today, we still see remnants of this ancient dynamic playing out in subtle ways.
Animals like rhinos and hippos are plant eaters, yet they kill far more people every year than lions, tigers, or sharks combined. We like to think that sharp teeth and loud roars are what make an animal scary, but deep down, our brains are still wired to fear the unpredictable, unstoppable giants that do not follow the normal rules of engagement.
Next time you see a picture of a lion, you might see the king of the jungle, but to the humans who built our first shelters, the real king was the silent giant that made the earth shake beneath their feet.
If you found yourself transported back to the Ice Age with only a wooden spear, would you feel safer tracking a pride of hunting lions across an open plain, or trying to sneak past a giant ground sloth resting inside a dark cave?